I'm sort of slumped down because I'm really conscious that I don't want to have my head cut off. Right, so my recent decision to home educate my littles. If you don't know me, I'm Lucy. I'm a freelance journalist, blogger, podcaster based in Brighton after living in London for 20 odd years. And I have a 3-year-old, well, she's 3 next month, and a 5-month-old. So I never thought about home educating. Well, I thought about it, but I thought, oh my goodness, I'd never be able to do that. I can't imagine being stuck at home with the kids all day. In fact, I always wanted both kids to be in nursery as much as possible, as much as I could afford them to be. And I very much worked my ass off so that would happen. And then recently, as my toddler got older, I started to follow the Montessori approach, and then I was inspired by the Reggio Emilia approach of education and just kind of child upbringing. And so now I'd probably say that we're sorry for the sound, that's my baby playing with she doesn't have bells in her. She wasn't born with like an innate bell. It's a little toy that she's playing with. Right, yeah, so back to what I was talking about. So I wouldn't necessarily say that I am the epitome of what I imagine a home educator to be, a homeschooler to be. And that's just because I didn't really understand the movement in many ways and all the different ways that you could do it. Anyway, and then I discovered the amazing Eloise, aka Mighty Mother, and I've done quite a few of her different courses, and they've just been so transformative. And she home educates her daughter, and in the most recent course that I took, A Beautiful Childhood, she did a module on all the different education approaches. It wasn't specifically for homeschoolers, but and that's where I discovered Unschooling. And it felt so, it was like a light bulb. And I was like, Unschooling, this taps into so many of my values and everything I feel about school. And all the pieces of the puzzle felt like they were slotting together. And so I took a deep dive into unschooling and trying to learn everything I could about it, and realised that it's something that I've always wanted to do with my kids without even realising. And I was going to basically have them go to school and then fight against the system and try and implement unschooling whilst having them in a traditional school, which seems like a waste of everyone's time, to be honest. And so now I'm thinking very much that I want to go down the unschooling mixed with, the unschooling route, I guess. I suppose the whole beauty of unschooling is that you write your own life in many ways. You write your own rule book. And so how that looks is going to look completely different for every person. So at the moment, I'll just briefly talk about the reasons why I want to home educate and why I don't want Anais to go to a traditional school. And also tell you that we are applying for a local school, which is a very alternative school. It's super oversubscribed. So she'll be in the UK. Children don't legally have to go to school until the term after they turn 5. However, most go when in that year that they're 5. So, for example, for me, I was 4 when I went to school, and I turned 5 within the school year. Because my birthday is end of August, which is like a few weeks before the term starts. But for Anais, her birthday is in April, so she'll be 4.5 when she goes to school. So this time next year, we will know if we've got a place. How it works with primary schools in the UK is that you apply en masse. Everybody applies at a set time. The deadline is January, I think. So it'd be January next year. So this time next year, we would ostensibly, if we were applying for lots of schools, know which school she'd got into. And you put down choices, so you have your first choice, second choice, third choice, and yeah, it all sounds quite stressful. Anyway, we'll only be applying for that one school and then deciding and then we'll play by ear. But I'm super happy to, and my plan is to have her at home for the first official school year and see how it goes. She might not enjoy it, it might not work out for us as a family, but I don't want her to go to any school, just for the sake of going to school. And I want to acknowledge my privilege here because I work from home. I have a job that allows me to work remotely, and I have done for many years, so I've got so much privilege to be able to do this. If our family income relied on me going out to work, this just wouldn't be an option at all. So I hold my hands up there. That being said, these are the reasons why I want to home educate and specifically unschool. So my school experience was awful. Primary school's fine. Secondary school's awful. I went to I grew up in Kent, and we have the 11 plus in Kent, and other places around the country have 11 plus. And I took the 11 plus and passed it, and therefore I went to a grammar school. Grammar school is basically a state school, but it's means tested. So I was tested at the age of 10. And we didn't do SATs at primary school because we had the 11 plus. The SATs are a form of testing that most children start to have in primary school. Anyway, blah, blah. That's when the testing started, and as soon as I was in school, very traditional school, that was very academic, it's very focused on maths, science, English, the kind of core subjects. They were very focused on Ofsted results and league tables, and two of my best friends are my friends that I met when I was 11 at school, and we always joke about the fact that we were constantly told, you're the top 10%, you're the top 10% of the country. I don't actually remember being told this over and over again, but we always joke about it now. They definitely remember it, and I mean, that was kind of the vibe of the school. Other things that I remember were, you don't fail, you leave. And the league tables were a big thing, and I remember always looking at league tables from a very young age to see where my school was. Not in a, oh my god, my school's really high up, but just that was kind of in my consciousness, I think is really weird. I didn't understand what league tables really, really meant in the grand scheme of things. Anyway, a few things throughout school. I did not get on very well. So I excelled until I got to school, and that really knocked my confidence. So much of my identity now, and why the things that I'm successful at, why I'm successful at them now, were the complete opposite at school. It was why I was singled out, why teachers didn't like me, why I was told that I didn't reach my potential, why I was told that I was too outspoken. I questioned things too much. There's so many little anecdotes I could pull out, but probably one, and try not to project all of this onto my child, which I'm sure mamas, parents, you'll understand this, but one thing from a kind of more subjective point of view, I did my GCSEs, and then I wanted to do, actually before I did my GCSEs, so wind back, we all did Latin, which is kind of archaic, but also I loved Latin. I thought it was great. So I loved Latin. I also really loved German, which was the language that was just assigned to me. So everybody had a modern language, and we also had Latin. And if you were good at Latin, you could also opt to do Greek and classic civilization later, but you had to be good at Latin. I wanted to do French as well, and we did a year of French, and then you could either continue with French and your other modern language, or continue with Latin and one modern language. You weren't allowed to do all three. I loved languages, and I was really good at them. I had an aptitude for languages, probably because I loved them, because I found them so fascinating. It's just how my brain obviously was drawn to languages. And I was told, no, you just can't do that. And, you know, my parents weren't the type of parents that would advocate for me. My mum is very rules, and, you know, she's working class, so, and not that all working class people are like this, but I think just to explain, you know, she's not a bad parent, it's just that she was brought up in a very, to respect authority and to be fearful of authority and to not question it. And my dad, very, very academic, really, he's Egyptian, and he was very believed in, you know, you must be educated, academics is the most important thing, and you get an academic job, like, you know, dad's a doctor, mum's a nurse. So I didn't have people advocating for me in that way. Anyway, so that was kind of the start. And then when it got to A-levels, the 3 subjects I wanted to do, I wasn't allowed to do again. I wanted to do art, and they were like, you're not good enough to do art. And actually, I think the art teacher said, talent-wise, you're good enough, but you don't apply yourself in the way that you're supposed to, which I always found to be a really weird critique. And she said, you know, your colleague, for example, this other person in the class, you know, she's not very good at art, her talent isn't there, but she, like, sticks to the rules, and she does the coursework, and she, like, I don't know, colours within the lines, so we would probably let her do the... It was just seemed bizarre to me. Like, why can't everyone that wants to do it? To reflect now as an adult, I can see that schools, especially schools that aren't private, like I went to a state school, they get funding from the government, of course, but, you know, they're really stretched. There were 30 odd people in my class, in every class, until I got to A-levels, basically. So the resources needed for that amount of children, like timetabling, like having to manage all those different potential scenarios of this person doing this A-level mixed with these 2 others, and like I can't even imagine how that would work. So, you know, I have a lot of sympathy for schools because they just don't have the resources, and, you know, there's amazing teachers, and thank goodness people still go into traditional teaching because it's right for so many people. And I had amazing teachers too. There was some, you know, a few teachers throughout my school history career who I still think of now and think, God, you were amazing. Miss Wells, my geography teacher, Mr. Hanley, my English teacher, Mr. Sperling, my history teacher, who was great, but also was a bit of a dick to me once. He really shouted at me because I told him to recycle. He put paper in the bin. This is the 90s, people. It was pretty woke of me. But anyway, we had recycling points, and he put a load of paper in the bin, and I was like, Mr. Sperling, you should put that in the recycling. And he took me out of the class and shouted at me and told me, I don't need to be questioned by anyone, least of all you, who is bone idle and lazy. I'll never forget that, clearly. But also, he was a very good teacher. But, you know, I think he was probably about 25. So, and I was, 13. Probably really annoying. Similar to how I am now. Anyway, so taking this, like, fast forwarding, I just don't believe in testing, especially when there's no need for it. You know, there has to be testing, for certain things, and I'm not an an absolute crusty idiot who thinks that, or naive, who thinks that, you know, we can all just float around and do what we want, la 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 la. We should just be able to go into the jobs that we're passionate about, because you know what, like, we might then end up with unqualified doctors who just really, really love Grey's Anatomy. That's not what I'm saying. I do not believe it's in any child's best interest to be stifled by testing at such a young age. I don't believe in streamlining. I understand why it's there. And it's not there for anything other than the greater good and to be budget conscious and efficient. But to my mind, all of this stuff feeds into the capitalist society that we have now, and individualist society that we have now, and I don't want that for my children. I want Anais to grow up following her passions, not the things that she's good at. And that's, you know, very utopian of me, but also I think it's really important that she be given as much freedom to pursue her passions until such times as it becomes, you know, necessary for her to slot into society and its rigours. So for me, I just want to keep them at home, and unschooling is not, if you're worried about socialisation, because that seems to be the number one thing that people are worried about, I'm not recreating a school in my home. I'm not going to sit there with a blackboard, me, my toddler and my baby, like replicating a school environment. There's going to be some more formal learning, but really we're going to kind of be following our noses, if that makes sense. We're going to be out in nature as much as possible. We're going to be doing what I do now with her. So she loves art, she loves practical life activities, and everything that we do, there's an opportunity for learning. You know, you can, when you're cooking pasta, for example, you undoubtedly do this with your own kids, like 1, 2, 3, oh, one more, like, that's maths. So, yeah, that's what we're going to be doing, and I don't know if it'll work. Oh yeah, and back to the socialisation. So I had to rejoin Facebook because I think Facebook is the best place for this sort of thing. And one of the best things about school that Anais potentially won't be getting is the community and the friends and the socialisation, which I think is really, really important for children. You know, like I just said, my bridesmaids I met at school, they're the closest people to me. They know me better than anyone else, and we've got a history, and that's super, I wouldn't change that for the world. And I want that for Anais too, of course. How she'll be getting that is through one of my friends. Anais goes to nursery with her daughter and they play together. Undoubtedly they'll grow up together. And through Facebook. There are unschooling kind of outposts and communities and homeschooling communities that I'm hoping to tap into so that we can share the load and, I don't know, all go to a park together, all go to meetups. Maybe people can be coming to my house once a week. And there's a really beautiful forest school that I remember when it was being built, actually, is inside a little park in Hove where I live. And I'm hoping to have Anais go there once a week. So that's until 6. So homeschooling doesn't mean everything is on me. Arguably, I'll probably have more, not childcare, but I will still have childcare. Not more childcare than I have now, but yeah, I will still have childcare. So yeah, and it's more important if you want to stay at home with your kids all the time. Like, you go fucking mad, won't you? Yeah, might have to cut that bit out. It's a bit rude. yeah, so that's it. That's why I want to homeschool. And if you want more information about homeschooling, then I really recommend that you look up Mighty Mother or Abby at the Family Collective. There is various websites for homeschooling. I think it's just like probably homeschooling.org. I can't really remember the address. But there's, and even on the government website for schools and education, they direct you to the official kind of channels for home education. If you just type in home education and where you live, you'll probably find somewhere. I suppose my one caveat would be that, like with anything, I think you have to be quite discerning, because one of the things that concerns me is how intertwined the homeschooling community is with like anti-vaxxers, which is not a belief of mine, fervently not a belief of mine. So I think you have to be a bit discerning. It's kind of the same as being vegan. I'm plant-based, but also there's other things that I really don't believe in that kind of are rife in the vegan community. So anti-vaxxers tend to be in there as well. So yeah, probably be a bit discerning. Right, I think I'm going to leave that there. If you have any questions, please pop them in the comments, and maybe I'll do more videos as I progress and learn more about it. Bye!